All right, whenever you're ready, Ed.
Okay. Board of Water Commissioners meeting is being called to order Thursday, November 5th, 2020 at 6 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law GLC 3818 and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for the remote participation of members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found in the Office of the Attorney General's webpage. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The town will preserve to use conference call capabilities regularly for other parties to listen in and participate accordingly. If not possible, we will host on the town's website an audio recording as soon as possible after the meeting. Call for attendance. Chairman Ed Johnson, present.
Commissioner Dave Meswar, present.
Commissioner John Kane, present.
Randy Brown, DPW Director, present.
Christie.
Oh, Chrissy Mayette, DPW Office Manager, present.
Okay. Do we have anybody for public comment? Okay. Okay. Randy, introduction of the new commissioner, John Kane.
Yes, John, welcome aboard. Can you hear
Thank you,
everybody?
John.
Welcome aboard.
So, John, I think you kind of met Dave at the your interview meeting a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you met Ed or not. But
No, I have not.
I want to welcome you to the commissioners meeting. To the commissioner, you got big shoes to fill. Luther was on this board for many years, but I'm sure you'll do fine. I think we wanted to do at the beginning was just kind of go over some of the business that the water commissioners do, just to kind of help get you up to speed. If that's okay with you. I'm not sure how much research you've done. You know, some information that we're going to go over we have in the packet here is also available on the town website. So if you had a chance to look at that, you know, it may be repetitive. Just let us know, okay?
Okay.
So first of all, in your packet, Christy developed, there's a page called water rates.
Yes.
So those are the rates that are in effect as of now. I think 2 or 3 meetings ago, the water commissioners adopted this rate structure. So it's an ascending rate structure. There's 3 tiers: tier 1, 2, and 3. And each tier has a certain number of gallons that are billed at that rate.
Mhm.
And as you use more water, there's a higher rate for that. Any questions on this, John?
Nope. No, I understand that pretty well.
Okay. The next item is a flyer that we put together regarding the water use restrictions.
Okay.
We have been in water use restrictions, I think 5 out of the last 6 years, or 4 out of the 5 or 5 out of the last 6 years. And the reason we are in a restriction is due to our water withdrawal permit. That's with Mass DEP. So this permit allows a town to draw so many gallons of water out of our own drinking water wells. And there are restrictions in that. So one of the restrictions is in order to try to help mitigate unnecessary uses, there are restrictions that are put in effect. And the way that Mass DEP gauges whether we need to go in restrictions is based on flow levels of the Westfield River. And they use that as an indicator if our region is in a drought.
Okay.
We have been in a drought for much of the summer, and actually we continue to be in that drought. However, our permit only covers the months of May through May through September.
Okay.
So just after October 1st, we did lift these restrictions, even though the town was still in a drought. So what are, what allow, do you want me to go over details of this, or are familiar?
No,
with
I've
restrictions?
read through it. I'm pretty familiar with
Okay, yeah.
that process.
I don't want to waste all of our time if we don't need to, so.
Oh, I've read through the whole packet when Chrissy sent it to me. So
Okay,
if there's
perfect.
anything pertinent, that I really need to be up to speed on, we can go over that. But as far as what's in the packet, I've read through it all.
Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, so our permit itself, our permit expired in 2016, and we're waiting for Mass DEP to pick up the ball and renew that permit. We're not the only town who's waiting for a permit. There is actually probably most of the communities in Massachusetts are waiting to have their permit renewed. And it's just a long process. And I think they had a schedule when they first rolled this program out. And obviously they're well behind that schedule. So I have reached out to Mass DEP. Usually once a year, I reach out to them and I ask them where we are on their schedule. I reached out to them probably less than a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I asked them where we stood, and they said that we will maybe get to you next year. And I'm not holding out hope, because that's the same answer I've gotten every year for the past 3 or 4 years, maybe next year. So
Okay.
we're kind of waiting until they pick up the ball on that. All right.
Okay.
The next packet here is the water service moratorium. That's something that was put into effect at the end of August. And the reason that was put into place was because we had a very large increase in water use this summer in particular. And I think there's if it's not here, it's later in the packet. There's a chart which we showed
Yeah.
all the water use each month for not only this year, but the last 4 years. And this year, there's been a very large increase in flows. And because of that, over this summer, we were pumping out of our own water source, plus Springfield water, pretty much all day long. We had all of our pumps running, and we could still barely keep up with the demand. And then
I
on
did
top of that,
years, it's considerably more.
Yep. So then on top of that, we have our water management act permit, which allows us to draw so much water out of our wells, and we're in danger of exceeding that this year because of that use. So because of that, we put this service moratorium in place until we can get a good handle on why we're having a large increase in water use this year.
Okay.
All right, so that was that. The next item here, it's got all these numbers on it, is our budget. So this is a budget sheet that I get every year. We run by the fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th. Typically, the budget process starts on my end in sometime in middle of December. So late December, early January, I'll present a budget to the water commissioners. They'll take a look at it, review it, make modifications if necessary, and then we submit that to the select board and the finance committee. And there are several meetings that I have, plus meetings that the commissioners have with those boards over the winter months to kind of review and finalize the budget. And then that budget is voted on at town meeting, which is typically in May. So these are all the line items. When we get to that point, I'll go over each line item in more detail if you need to. I'd say for the most part, our budget hasn't changed all that much over the past couple of years. As far as the operations in particular, we do have capital projects that we're working on, pump station, water main upgrades, things of that nature. So we want to make sure we're incorporating those costs into the budget. So we'll have a more detailed discussion on the FY22 budget in probably a couple meetings.
Okay.
All right. That's all I had. Anything else? Yeah, John, you can think of, or Dave or Ed, anything you guys want to go over? Just to
Yeah.
help get John up to speed?
Yeah, John, I got one concern, what you did on the community page about getting to the bottom of the high water rates to our customers.
Yeah.
You haven't even been to a meeting yet, and I've been a water commissioner for 13 and a half years. I'm out for our townspeople, and we have a process that our customers can go through, and we send out our technicians or whatever to check the meter, to check everything. And the accuracy of our meters are, Randy explained to you. And I mean, that just kind of upset me a little bit that you didn't even contact me or Randy. And my mother called me, says, who's this John Kane guy saying about he's going to get to the bottom of the water bills and whatever. And it just kind of upset me a little bit. And I just want to, we have a process to go through, and we've been taking care of our customers the best we can. And you need to communicate with Dave and I, because we're a team. We're not just a one-person commissioners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I and I had mentioned that. I said, we can look into it, and we have our first meeting that I'm going to be at. I haven't even been to a meeting. I put that out there. I did stop and talk to Randy the following day about it, just to get up to speed on the water system, that what's going on, and to see what it was. And I had mentioned to people that we were using a lot of water. Everybody was, the town was pumping more water. My water bill is 10 times what it was. It's just everybody's.
People have pools, they were watering even with a garden hose or whatever, but.
Oh yeah, believe me, I know my uncle's the water department guy in Westfield, so I'm pretty familiar with water and the metering system and all that. And that's
okay. But I would just be careful what you say on social media, please. That's not how we operate. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Just
anything else, John?
One more.
Yes.
Just one more note, John. We all signed a social media policy for the town. You should probably talk to Carl and see if you can get a copy of that.
Sure.
I think we all went to a thing, a training course, and then we had to sign on the policy. So they did put one in place a year or two ago, and you should probably look that over.
Yeah, no problem. I'll do that for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to pile it on, John. I just want to let you know that, on our end, we've, Chrissy in particular has been the forefront of all the calls that we've received. And she gets calls and saying, the water commission, by Bill's side, the water commissioner said there's an issue and they're going to look into it. And she has to respond that, no, that's not the case, but that perception is out there that the water commissioners have decided, there's an issue with my bill. And yes, they're going to take care of it.
Oh, I've said that there was the bill's not the issue. It's the water usage, and I've said that to people. But I understand, and we'll go.
Okay. Oop. What happened here? You
I
there,
think
Christy?
I can hear it. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. We all set then? Okay.
Yep.
Dave, have you reviewed the minutes of the September 2nd Water Commissioners meeting?
Yes, I reviewed the minutes. I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I second. All in favor, Ed Johnson, yes.
Dave Meswar, yes.
Okay. Motion carried. Dave, have you reviewed the minutes of the joint meeting with the select board re the appointment of John Kane?
I have reviewed the minutes, and I make a motion to accept the minutes as.
And I have listened to the audio of the minutes because I was not present. I second it. All in favor, Ed Johnson, yes.
Dave Meswar, aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, Chrissy, we have any commitments or elderly rate applications tonight?
Yes, they'll be in your packet after the minutes. We have the commitment from August, September, and October.
Okay. Okay, monthly commitments. Okay, yep, see them. Nothing out of the ordinary. High rental, final readings, final water. Okay.
A lot of final readings.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay. So we got a lot of elderly rate applications, huh?
Yes, the first group on top, at the top of the page there, they meet all the requirements necessary to receive the elderly rate. The only one that there's a question of is 42 Rosewood Lane. It's not their full-time residence. She has a home in Florida, and her daughter is the owner of the property.
Oh, okay.
So you guys can make a determination on that one.
Now, which one is that one now?
The one at the very bottom of the page.
Oh, Rosewood Lane. Okay, yeah. So her daughter owns the property?
Yes.
Okay, well, that, and
My
she's not.
daughter would be the one that would have to file for it.
Right, absolutely. So that's, yeah.
Chrissy, whose name is the bill in?
It's in her daughter's name because it has to be in the name of the owner.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She would have to apply for it. So all these other ones are good?
Christy, do you want to, just for John's benefit, do you want to kind of go over the criteria that you have to meet in order to qualify for elderly rate?
Yeah, you couldn't go over that with him.
Okay, so they have to be head of household and 65 years of age or older, not supported by anyone else living in the home other than their spouse or their self. It has to be their permanent residence, their full-time residence, and they have to be the owner of the home. We do allow if the person living there has a life estate and it's to their kids, but they're still living in the house and they're paying all the bills, we would still allow it in that case. But
Okay.
that's all the criteria.
Okay, so all the rest of these meet the requirements?
Yes.
Okay, can I hear a motion except for the elderly applicants that meet all the requirements?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept the elderly rate applications for Richard Clark, Helena Gazowitz, Mark Simmons, Paul Stanton, Kim Phillips, Michael Bodak, Constance Hosmer, Deborah Harath, Dennis Beltis, Mary Ann and Robert Henry, and Patricia Savoy.
And I have a second on the motion.
A second motion.
Okay, all in favor? Ed Johnson, yes.
Dave Meswar, yes.
John Kane, yes.
Okay, motion carried. Okay. Randy, you want to skip the DPW director's report and go to our first appointment?
So just to clarify, you're rejecting the one on 42 Rosewood?
Yeah, I make a motion to
motion.
reject the elderly rate of Elizabeth Quinn.
Have a
On
second?
the page.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Ed Johnson, yes.
Dave Meswar, yes.
John Kane, yes.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, Randy, you want to suspend on the DPW director's report and go to the appointment?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. What we got? Gary LaQuarrie, 266 South Long Yard. Hi, Gary.
Is he on? No, okay, someone's walking in now.
You there, Gary?
Hi, he is here. He's on a phone call. Can I have a minute to get him? Is that possible?
Yeah, because his appointment is at 6:15. He only has 15 minutes. 'Cause
Okay,
we have three other appointments.
Okay, let me grab him for you. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks for waiting. I apologize. He'll be right with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, how are you?
Good. You got a little under 15 minutes to explain why you think the water commissioner should abate your water bill of $2,000.
Yeah, I couldn't really hear you that well. What?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you a little bit now. I guess with the technology, I don't. Who is this talking? Randy Brown?
No, this is Chairman Ed Johnson.
Okay.
We need to know why you think we should abate your water bill by $2,000.
Well, I've given you 7 years of readings, and I've lived in Southwick actually since 2010 when I got my CO on that house there, and I've never had a bill this high. I've talked to Richard Langoni, a plumber, who owned Accurate Plumbing for a long period of time. I know what went on there at my house. To me, there's a miscalculation. The meter was, I guess, in the alternative, the meter was, I believe, was defective. When I call the water department, I talked to the water department, and they sent someone up right away. And the technicians that came up said that they couldn't get a reading from outside the manhole. I have a manhole out front, and they get the readings from the street. they couldn't get a reading from the outside, even though they were right there. So they had to take out the cover and go underneath. Then they got the reading. I don't know, you know, to me, that's dysfunctional. Something went wrong there. I've given you 7 years, and I know I can go back further. That it just, you know, this reading, this was crazy in terms of the dollar cost. You know, I'm going to do away with this system. It's ridiculous. This is obviously something's wrong here. Either the meter's defective, potentially maybe there was the system failure. I don't know in the alternative, but I think most importantly that, you know, initially this meter was defective.
Gary, what did you do every night from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning?
I don't know. I had my guy, you know, I to be honest with you, I don't, you know, I'm not a technician. They said it the same way they said it. I don't know what went on there, to be honest with you.
Well, last year you only ran your water from 12 to 2 in the morning.
I don't know what happened there. I don't know how it was, you know, maybe the meter is wrong. I don't know, but I know that, you know, I've never paid bills like this before, and I'm never going to pay bills like this. I
Randy?
mean, you know, something's wrong. Something's dysfunctional. It's not that I, you know, want to do this. You know, I've been a resident there for a long time. I'm there with my wife, my daughter. It's, you know, to me, to pay a $2,900 bill like this is insanity.
Randy?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at the meter. There's nothing wrong with the readings. You know, we looked at your history. We have hourly readings on that meter since it was installed. And as Ed noted, you were watering every day, pretty much all summer long, in violation of the water ban.
I don't know that. I don't know how you can say that. You know? Well, I don't agree with it, you know, and I'm getting, you know, I'll get a new system, but this is, you know, borders on insanity. You know, if you could, you know, this is like a new tax. I don't know, you know, what you did here.
Are you familiar with the water restrictions that were put in place this summer?
I really don't, you know, to be honest with you, I've had other stuff going on. Major changes in my life. There are some restrictions. I'll comply with the restrictions. I thought I was complying with the restrictions.
You can only water 1 day a week.
You know, technically, you know, I'm here, you know, and I'm telling you, I think there was something defective about the thing. And, you know, you know.
Our men checked the meter and they said there was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, they checked it, but they checked it. They had to go down inside to get a reading. Why couldn't they get it outside when I was there in front of me?
Well, Dave,
No,
you got
to
any
me,
input on this?
The meter has been tested and it's accurate.
Randy, that's correct, right?
When it was put in, yes. Yep.
Well, when was it put in?
Chrissy can look up the date. It was probably within 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago.
Well, I just haven't used that type of water. It's not something I do. I don't know how I got a bill like this. It's crazy to me.
Who programs your irrigation system?
Who
You
what?
do that? Who programs the setting on your irrigation system?
Who program? I don't know who. I've got Rodier irrigation, but you know, I don't know. I wouldn't want to irrigate anything for 6 hours. That you said that's crazy.
Well, the water went somewhere, Gary.
Well, I don't know where it went. You know, to be honest with you, it didn't. I've got dry spots on my property, so I don't know what's the matter. Whether it was a systemic failure or what, or the meter reading, but it's crazy. I'm not going to have it again.
Dave, you got any questions?
Is there a leak in your irrigation system?
I you know, I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm not in that business. I think there has to be, because there was a big dry area above where the manhole is. So I don't know how that could have been watered. There was some wet areas way down, you know, down by the manhole. So maybe there was a leak there. I wasn't aware of it. And, you know, it's not something I want to do in the past. I wanted to do in the past. I think I got a history I showed you, and it's nothing I want to do in the future.
I think
No.
you need to get that looked at because you got water going somewhere.
Well, I know that, but you know, apparently I know it now, but I didn't know it. And for me to be penalized the amount of $2,900 is, I think, overkill. I'll work with the town. I've worked with the town before, you know.
Well, the water went through the meter, Gary. You're responsible
Well,
for the water
yeah,
that went
you're
through the meter.
responsible to a technical sense. Maybe the meter was wrong too. It could be a lot of things. I know when the meter guys came up to read it, they couldn't read it from outside. Why not? Tell me that.
Randy,
I'd
you
have
got
to
any
check.
input?
I don't have an answer on that, no. We can
Okay,
check
yeah,
into it.
well, if you don't have an answer,
But the
that's
fact is,
from an evidentiary
no,
standpoint.
the fact is the
No.
meters are reading continuously, okay? What the device that they
Anybody
look,
can make a mistake.
no. So what
Well,
happened?
Yeah. You
Can I
mistake-
speak?
Mistaken, yeah.
So what happened?
It's not gonna happen with me again, but there's something wrong here.
Yeah,
So
you've got
Gary,
something wrong with your system, Gary. I'm
It's
telling you.
something, it could have been wrong with says he didn't even know if it was working right, the meter.
John, you got any input in this?
I think you can look at the water use, you're using the same amount of water, you know, like it's turning on and turning off, like your sprinkler.
That's not me though. I don't know what did it. It's the first time in 7 years. Doesn't that ring some sense of, I gave you a chart of how much I used. And
we have-
before
we
it was
have
even lower than that.
We have a
Doesn't that
chart
give
right
you some
here.
sense of reasonableness?
We have charts right here.
Everyone's water bill is higher. Everybody has used more water. I use more.
Well, I'm going to do away with my water bill, believe me, because apparently it's like a new tax in town.
Yeah, but John, I'm looking at your history, and every June, July, August, your water spikes in the summer. So it's got to be your
It's not
irrigation.
me. I really hadn't paid attention to it. It's never going to happen again. But something was
Yeah.
wrong here. Maybe the meter was wrong. I don't
No,
know.
the
The meter guy, Mr. Brown, said he didn't know. He didn't know when it was tested.
I suggest you speak with whoever set the settings on your irrigation system and have them change it,
Yep.
because that's where the issue is.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I suggest you look at your meter and you'd be able to read it from the outside instead of going down into the manhole.
I don't know about that, Gary.
Well, I was there. I was right there. They had to go down into the manhole
But,
to
that
get the
does,
reading.
but your meter still reads the same. It goes right to our
Well,
computer.
yeah, it does. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But
No,
they
it does.
couldn't read
It
it from the
does.
outside.
Well, I don't know. I think
That's
it's
all.
higher in your.
That's a homemade meter pit. It's not a manufactured meter pit. So there's a manufactured meter pits, the covers have a hole on the top where we have an MXU that goes through the cover and reads on it. Because due to the fact that that's not a manufactured one, that's why it's like that.
Oh, good, Kevin. Thank you.
That's why it's in the new rules and regulations that you have to have a manufactured meter pit. So the cover accepts our new MXU. That was
You're the
put
one
in
who
prior
Tom
to
came
that.
out and put it on there. I'll comply with it anytime. I didn't want that meter on there unless it was right. Now you're telling me that maybe it was wrong, but whatever. I wasn't aware of that. This is crazy in terms of the billing, what you're trying to bill me. I'll take it. You'll never see it again, and you hadn't seen it in 10 years. So don't you think that cries to some type of mistake?
Well, if you can guarantee that we won't see it again, then obviously the problem's on your end.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to guarantee I'll shut the water off. That's one way I'll do it. So I'll have the grass brown, paint it green.
Okay.
Well, it should have been brown because we had a water use restriction.
Well, it was brown in
Right.
some areas.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
But fine. This is a penalty period for me, right?
Okay. Dave, you got anything to say on this?
No, I think there's obviously a problem with the irrigation system.
I do too.
I mean, has the meter been tested since this? I mean, we can test the meter, and if it's accurate, we can.
Oh, yeah, the meter could be wrong too. It could, meters are like any other electronic thing. They can go just like a toaster can go, and it can go on. It can work sometimes, and it can not work sometimes.
We've had very good track record with our
Oh yeah,
meters.
but you don't have one with me because this time, it's a $2,000 difference from what I normally was for 10 years.
But the water went through the meter.
Well, I don't know if it went through the meter or not.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, well, that's your position. My position is that, I'm getting,
No,
royal,
well, I know just to let you know, so we don't get into a real big argument here. There is an appeals process.
Yeah.
You can go through the county, and you can state your case with the county if
Right.
you're not happy with our decision.
Which county is that? What are you talking about?
The Hamden County has an appeals board.
Hamden County? I thought they did away with it.
That's the rules. That's the rules that we have. It's in the laws. So
You have a zoning ordinance you want to cite?
I'm just making you aware that you can appeal it if you feel that you still have
Happy
a
with our
problem.
decision, right?
Can we look at the data and see that every day it's the same time frame that the massive water usage is being used? If
It
that-
is.
How come it didn't do that in the other years?
It is, Christie, right? It's every day.
Yes, every day from
12 to 6.
midnight to about 8 a.m. No, it's
What
midnight
year?
to 8 a.m.
What year?
And from last year, it was between 5 and 8. So instead of, because we were in a drought, I'm sure it was set longer.
You
know,
telling me they said it
it
and
was
they
watering
didn't know
much
there was a
longer.
drought?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
this
the
is like,
job
you
of the
know, to
irrigation
me,
company is to set your irrigation system to water your lawn properly, not to abide by the water use restriction. That's your responsibility.
Right.
So we're seeing right here that every day your irrigation system
it's not
comes up.
anything I wanted, Mr. Kane. There's nothing that I wanted, believe me. I had
Well,
dry
I
spots in
understand.
that lawn and everything else.
Okay, Gary, but it did. You did.
But this is just the facts. This is what happened in the irrigation system based on the data and what you're saying and what we've seen.
That's based on your meter and everything else.
Okay. Can I have a motion to see what we're going to do with this, Dave?
I'll make a motion to reject the abatement based on the evidence of the water usage.
I have a second on that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, Ed Johnson, aye.
Dave Miswar, aye.
John Kane, aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, Gary, sorry about that, but
Yeah, you're really sorry.
okay, thank you.
In kangaroo court.
Okay, who else we got?
Good evening, guys. Tom Reed here.
Yep.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. Christy, nice to see you after talking to you on the phone.
Hello.
How you doing? So guys, I submitted an abatement on my water bill. Basically this year, the bill for my summer, I'll call it my summer bill, which I just received in October, was over $1,800. If you look at, and I've got some data I want to share with you guys before let me just share my screen real quick. Can you let me share a screen?
Yeah, you have 15 minutes.
Yep, I want to quickly just have that up on the screen. Right now I'm disabled from sharing anything by the host.
Okay. Try now.
There you go. And share. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So what I just kind of outlaid is I've got about 11 years here plotted of where I've got the most recent year this year being my, I'll call it my winter bill and then my summer bill. And my summer usage this year showed 319,000 gallons. Basically almost 100,000 gallons more than I ever consumed as a resident in Southwick over the last 10 years. You can see my 10-year usage in the summer compared to this year. Obviously the dollars shot up to practically double what I've been paying in the summer all these years. And I kind of just charted it here just to show you the summer bill on top and the winter bill. I'll call it my winter usage is obviously lower without the irrigation in the summer. A couple things happened over the course of this year. One, we had a pool liner that ripped. We had it filled in the spring. The second thing is I was notified of a leak in the water system here within the home. And trouble got that leak. We did not find the leak until very recently. I had the irrigation system diagnosed. I had no sounds in the house of running water, but I was getting notified, and Christy sent me a note that I had a leakage going on, but I couldn't locate it till recently. Ended up being a toilet in the downstairs bathroom. That was the leakage problem. And Christy Hyman going back and forth, she's been a great help to help me reconcile that leak as recent as this week when we had, she kind of said, yeah, you're still showing a little bit of a trickle. Ended up being a toilet valve that was just spitting out and leaking past the seal on the tank. But where I'm kind of looking for an abatement, guys, where you obviously see the gross jump this year. You can see my averages in the summer. I go back to last, 10 years before that, I've averaged about $1,000 on my summer bill compared to the $2,192 that I'm sure I've averaged in the summer right over here. The last 10 years, about $860. So I'm asking for like a $700 abatement against this to kind of get back to what I've been normally as a consumer and a resident of Southwick have been paying over the last 10 years. So it was an unusual circumstance with the leakage, also the pool issue. But I just want to be straight up with you guys. I just thought this was highly unusual. We did solve the leak problem. So hopefully that goes away, and I'll continue to check in with Christy once in a while to make sure we're not leaking anything further.
Well, Tom, your toilets will leak a lot of water even though you don't hear it. And it's been an unusual hot summer. You've had to fill your pool, and I'm sure you had to fill it more than once. Randy, can you give me a background on this?
Yeah, I think we had a pretty good summary from Mr. Reed. He was notified about the leak, I think in July.
Yep.
And then we sent a follow-up notice about a month later. So he was aware of the leak. He had conversations with Christie at that point, or with our offices, that they got the notices, and they were, they didn't get to it until, I guess, just recently.
Yeah, we did. It took us a while to find it and actually get it troubleshot, but we went out of our minds trying to figure out where it was. Normally you can hear it. You'll hear, we have a 1-inch inbound line past the meter. It's 1-inch pipe that goes out to the distribution. And then with the water, you could usually hear something around the toilets. We could not find it. So
Dave, okay, Dave, you got anything on this? Any input on this?
Second notice would have been nice.
I'm still looking over it.
John?
So we think that the leaks started when, or when did you fix it? I guess that's the most important part.
The initial, I did a partial fix replacing the flapper on the toilet probably a couple weeks ago was when I was talking initially to Christy. And then this past week, I replaced the valve because she said you're still showing a little bit of trickle during the night when you should see zero usage, right? We're sleeping, right? So she said, you see a little bit of trickle. And then I fixed the valve, replaced that this past few days. And I think we're at this point not leaking anymore. But, you look at the summer ones, and what's interesting is the summer one really shot up. And you asked about when the leak may have started. The winter one, while it was 61,000, it's not grossly higher than, a $55,000 year or 54,000 gallon year. And these were years when our household membership was last 5 years, our house has been at 2 people versus when my son was with us at 3. So we had less people in the house, but not a drastic jump in the winter one. So I would say based on that, you can see a $59,000 a year in there, but I would say it looks like it had to have started somewhere after the spring where it really started coming through would be my guesstimate. Because it wasn't a huge jump in the winter compared to some of the higher years.
Christy, when was he notified?
So the leak in our system, it flagged on July 21st. The first notice sent on July 28th.
Okay.
And the second notice was August 18th.
So Thomas, you filled your pool in the spring, and then
filled it up at the end of May. Yeah, late May.
Then you had a problem with it liner, right?
Yep.
So you had to drain the pool, and you had to refill the pool again, and then you had the leak in your toilets, correct?
Right.
So
yeah, and that's the second
water,
note. Yeah, go ahead.
The water went through your meter, Thomas. I mean, I'm sorry that your liner let go and you had to pay for a new liner and the water, but you had to fill your pool in the spring, and then you had to drain it completely and refill it again with a new liner, and then you had your leaks in your toilets. So that's why your bill jumped like it did, Tom.
No, I understand why it jumped, guys, but I'm just saying, on the pool thing, that should be a reason for abatement.
Why is that, Thomas? It's your pool. I don't have a pool.
You're on your rules and statutes. It talks about.
No, not theirs, but there are legal statutes.
There are legal statutes around the pools and all that on the abatements.
Right here.
That's too. Randy?
Not familiar with that. If you want to explain more, Thomas.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it either.
Yeah, I'm looking at some documentation relative to just pool abatements in general, where these classifications of pool abatements on an issue like that would be considered for abatement.
I think that might be when your sewer rate, when you're paying for sewer, including your water rate,
That could be.
where
That
they're
could
willing
vary,
to
yeah.
remove the sewer rate from the pool amount, so you're obviously not dumping your pool into the sewer. So they allow you to.
Right. Randy, that's probably what he's talking about.
It very well could be. I'm not sure what document. he's
I'm
looking
not
at.
either. I mean, my neighbor's got a pool and he had to fill his a lot this year and his water bill went up, but he understood why. So, but that's got to be because of the sewer, Tom.
Well, I guess, guys, I'm sitting here looking at this. You can see my record of what I've been paying you guys each year for water consumption. And when I see this thing double like this, I'm in a little bit of shock for the amount of water that it shows consumed this year. Irregardless, I had the leakage and whatnot. The second notification, I got a first notification. The second one in August. Whether or not we got it or not, I can't find the second notification. But my wife had called the office. She talked to Christy, thanked her for giving us the note. And we tried to do everything we could to find it right away. I'm just not happy with this volume of bill on this year. And it's just grossly higher than what I've ever seen.
You used a lot of water filling your pool, but okay, Dave, you want to make a motion on this one way or the other?
Just one thing so we're looking at this, the first notice sent says the leak's approximately 10 gallons per hour. So we're looking at 250 gallons a day. It comes out over 3 months, like 20,000 gallons at the most. So if anything, that would be your maximum amount of, abatement that you should be requesting to begin with, because that's where the leak is what we're talking about. And the leak says that we're about 10 gallons per hour. So if anything, that would be the maximum, 20,000 gallon.
Christy, if you want to run the numbers, what is that
Yeah.
rate? If it's 20,000 gallons?
20,000?
Yeah. What would that be?
Be just about $100.
$117
Right.
at the third tier.
At the third tier. Yep. Okay. Can I have a motion on the floor about the abatement for Thomas Reed?
I would make a motion to abate the 20,000 gallons at the tier 3 rate.
Second.
I think Dave's gone.
Is
You
he
lost
gone?
Dave?
Where'd Dave go?
Oh, yeah. No, Dave's there. Oh, he's stepped out, it looks like.
Where'd you go, Dave? Huh. Okay, well, I'll second it. Okay, all in favor? Ed Johnson, aye.
John Kane, aye.
Okay, that's a quorum. Passes for the abatement on the tier 3 for the 20,000 gallons for the leak.
I would say.
Okay. I appreciate it, guys. And Chris,
Okay.
we'll be checking with you once in a while and make sure we've got this thing licked on the leak. I'll just pulse you once in a while to check, okay?
Yeah, keep on top of it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
Reed, just know that everybody's used more water this year,
Everybody is. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reed.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Yep. Okay, next appointment is, who we got
The
next?
next appointment, I don't think anybody's present. I mean, it doesn't start until 6:45.
Okay,
It is Carol Keenan for Hudson Holdings.
yep. What's the background on that?
So there was, very high usage in June and then a little bit more than normal in July. And it kind of looked like irrigation at first. It didn't flag long enough for me to identify it as a leak.
Okay,
But if you look at the chart, I mean, I have the, the usage in June was 38,770 gallons alone, which, they haven't had a bill over the minimum in the entire time that they've been there.
Okay.
They claim that they didn't have a leak. The only time they ever use anything outside of usage for washing hands in the bathroom is to wash down machinery.
did we send
But there was-
anybody out to check the meter or anything, or?
We went out and verified the meter. everything looked fine on our
Yeah.
end. It was very high usage, but it wasn't continuous. It would go and then it would hit zero and then it would start again.
What do they do there at that?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask.
So what I was able to find, it's called KTI Systems. And it has something to do with filtering. It almost sounds like fuel.
Yeah, I live right across the street. Well, yeah, from Hudson Drive. I never even knew that was
But
there.
I guess it seems like mainly office space by what she was saying to me. But yeah, it looks like fuel.
Yeah, they only have 5 people working there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I spoke with the
I don't
lady, she said there's 4 bathrooms in the place.
Okay.
It looks like there's a tree cutting company or something there too.
Okay. Did they check for leaks or anything in the toilets, Kevin? Do you know, or?
Well, we're not supposed to go into the
Right,
buildings. and
that's
look.
right. Right.
But we can tell from the meter. Christie can read it and.
Yeah, you look at their uses, I mean, the issue was in June. I mean, lately
June,
it's
yeah.
been normal. So to me, it looks like there's a leaky toilet that was functioning periodically and then not at other times. And
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of traffic in that building, they probably didn't catch it. And so it went, a day or days at a time before it was caught, or they used the toilet again and it closed properly. That's my guess based on this chart.
Yeah, because it's right back to normal.
Yeah.
You know. So, Dave, got
Is
anything?
there's not an outside water spigot on that office, is there? There's no outside thing off their service.
I don't know.
There probably
I'm not-
is. I don't think that there's no irrigation though. I don't think there's any grass growing or much grass growing around the facility. But there may be a faucet for outdoor
For a
washing
hose,
down
yeah.
the vehicles or something.
Right.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Every usage is the maximum is the same amount, like within a couple gallons based on the graph here.
Right.
I mean, but that's kind of odd, that it would be almost exactly the same amount of excessive usage.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably just a constant leak for a 24-hour period. It's a toilet that was continuous.
Yeah, if a toilet's running, that's what happens.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, does it, Kevin?
No, not at all.
No, people don't realize that.
I've seen Methodist Church 15,000 gallons in one night.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I spoke with I was there working on it with your father, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, my dad's church. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Can we have a motion, gentlemen, what we're going to do with this abatement request?
Christie, there's no one in the waiting room, is there?
I'm double checking now. I don't see anybody. I know that she was out of town, but she said that she was going to call in. I don't see anybody.
Or you want to table it to the next meeting?
You want to just wait? I mean, we can table this until our next appointment.
Yeah.
We can talk about some other things before then, and then at 7 o'clock before our next appointment, you can vote on it if she doesn't show up, just to give her an
Okay.
opportunity to show up to speak.
Yeah, why don't we
Yeah.
table it until after the
Right.
DPW report?
Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, Randy.
Okay, a few things since we last met. The first item is the water main and pump station project with Ludlow Construction. That project is now closed out. There was a couple of punch list things regarding loaming and seeding that they finished. So that job is now done. We'll have to look forward to the next phase of that project. When we talked about lining that pipeline from the Springfield transmission main to the pump station. We'll be talking about that at the next couple of meetings as we go through the budget process. Item 2 is lead and copper samples. Something important here. So we at the last meeting, we talked about lead and copper sampling that we took at the 25 residences.
Okay.
After that, we took 4 samples at the schools and actually 3 at the schools and 1 at the rec center. So when we do lead and copper, we have to do 4 samples at a school or a daycare facility. So Unfortunately, of those samples, there were detectable levels of lead in 3 of the samples. And one of the levels was actually high enough to exceed the action level. And that was taken at the Woodland School kitchen sink. The other 2, there was one at the Powder Mill School kitchen sink and one at the rec center that were below the action level, but they were also still detectable. So I did follow up with the schools and with the rec center as soon as we got these results and alerted them to this. I believe that the schools and the rec center took these faucets out of service, and they are waiting for a plumber to come in and replace the fittings. That's the likely source of the lead. And then once those are replaced, we will probably retest those to make sure that there is no lead before they are put back in service. So I also reached out to Mass DEP. They were fully aware of this. There's nothing that we need to do, the water department needs to do on this.
Okay.
The onus is on the schools and the rec center to address these issues.
Okay.
So item 3, there was a water break on Lakeshore Drive. That was on September 28th. Actually, I think there were 2 leaks. It was a 2-inch water line, I believe, that and the line was, I think, 9 feet down. So it was it took a while to get to make that repair. But we did that, and that was on the 28th. On October 8th, we lifted the water restrictions in accordance with the water our withdrawal permit. And despite that, as I noted earlier, we are still in a drought condition. But because the language in the water withdrawal permit, we were able to lift that restriction on October 8th. Item 5, water bills are issued, and they're due on the November 18th. As we kind of talked about at the beginning of the meeting, we have received a lot of phone calls from residents with questions about their bill, saying that they may be too high. We've looked into all these issues, Christy and Kevin have in particular, and they've met with these property owners or talked to them on the phone. And in every case, the water bill was correct. We saw no issue with the readings itself. I also included a chart on the next page, which shows the water use that we pumped into our water system this year in comparison to the last 4 years. And you can see that through the months of January, February. So first of all, this chart, if you have it in front of you, the green line at the top is the 2020 use. So for the first few months of the year, you can see, up through April, there was a slightly elevated increase in use, but not all that significant or maybe out of that ordinary as would appear. But once we hit May and all the way through September, our water use spiked drastically. And in this last billing period, from April 1st to October 1st, we used 27% more water. We pumped 27% more water into our system than we did last year. If you look at the years 2016 through 2019, each year there was a very nominal, maybe 1%, 2%, 3% increase each year for that total year's water use. And as I said earlier, this year that spiked up to 27%. So that was one of the reasons we talked about why we put the moratorium in place. Because our water use was so high, and Kevin will vouch that, we had all of our pumps on all summer long. I know he was very stressed out for a lot of that time because if any one of those pumps was out of service, and we actually had that issue in early August when we had that windstorm, we lost one of the pump stations for a day. Even all those pumps running, we could barely keep up with demand. Something we need to look into the future is to figure out how we can either expand the capacity so we can bring more water into our system, or stop growth because we don't have more water to sell. If this year is going to be the new normal. So, any questions on that?
Well, looking at your graph based, with the water meter issues, the trend follows the yearly trend. We just used more. I think that's what people are going to realize, because you look at this, the meter, it matches every year the same trend. I think that's where you can see clearly that people are just using more water on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, my neighbor, he watered his lawn on the day he could with his garden hose, And he couldn't realize how much water he used just with a garden hose, you know?
And the city of Westfield, I just talked to one of the guys today, and they said their water usage is up like crazy too. You know, so it's not just,
Everybody is, Springfield, everybody, yeah.
Yeah, actually, some communities have gone the other way. You think of those facilities that had to close shop in March, April timeframe.
Wow.
Maybe some big users, like look at the Big E, you know, West Springfield. That's their probably 50% of their revenue comes through the Big E, and they had to shut their doors all summer long.
Yep.
So some towns are actually hurting. We're on the opposite end of that. I'd rather, you know, I don't know where I'd rather be, but you know, it is what it is. But we're managing here.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, it looks like it was right where it should be until April, right when
Yeah.
the COVID shutdown started.
Yep.
And then it went up. And then in October, it looks like it's right back where it should be.
Yep. It's leveled right off. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Randy?
Two quick things. Item 6, our water tank inspections are still scheduled for later this year. I'm waiting to hear back from the from the vendor. They said they're going to be in the area over the next couple of months, so I'm still waiting on that. And then the last item is Emil Pastilla. He does our backflow inspections. He's continuing that process. So that's that. And then the next page has a summary of all the work orders since our last meeting.
Yep. Saw that.
We talked about that, but a lot of shutoffs, obviously this time of year, not common.
Oh, while we're talking about meters, how we doing? How many meters we got left to install?
Of the old meters?
15.
The new ones. And they're still paying,
15.
they're still paying the fee? The
Yeah, there was
150?
only one that had it changed out.
Well, just keep billing them. Just keep billing them. Okay. Okay. Old business, Randy. You got anything under old business?
I do not know.
New business, top water users?
Yeah, so this kind of ties in our discussions we had earlier. I think at the end of your packet, there's a couple pages of all of our largest water users this past summer billing period. So our biggest user by far is the American Inn. They're in the, so we broke it up by use. So the top bar is for agricultural, the next bar is for commercial, and American Inn is under that commercial category. They have several meters, so you see the name on here a couple times, but they use upwards of 5 to 6 million gallons of water. They do have that crane building, but they do also do quite a bit of irrigation around the facility.
Right.
I know American Inn, they did have some financial issues, and they were just sold, I believe, at auction.
Oh, really?
I don't know, Christy, do you know if they're outstanding any of their past water bills?
I believe they are, yes.
Okay. So the town clerk and treasurer collector is working with them on a payment plan.
Okay.
But they are, they're our biggest user by far. We do have several farms that are also large users. Blossoming Acres, Meadowview Farm, not to be surprised by that. But I guess if you go to the second page, towards the bottom, these are our residential customers. And you can see that we've had some residential customers use upwards of 600,000 gallons of water, which is tremendous amount.
Yeah, really.
A lot of you can see the street names here, all primarily in the same neighborhood. I only included those, that are on this list, but there's, more, obviously that, we could share with you if you want to see them all. But, if we're going to do any kind of education or outreach, I would consider reaching out to these customers in particular and notifying them and making sure, first of all, they're aware and complying with the water restrictions.
Right.
And see if there's anything we can do to help them so they, they're following those to the T. Because
Absolutely.
my mind, this is not a good list to be on. So
Right.
this is here just for information. If you have any
Okay.
questions, we can certainly talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay. Anything else under new business? I haven't got anything. Dave, John,
No,
is our 7 o'clock appointment in?
I believe so. I see Rob.
Do you guys want to vote on that other abatement?
Oh,
Or
sorry.
no?
Oh, or do you want to table it to the next meeting?
Why don't we have the conversation with 42 Depot Street, and then we'll vote on it before we adjourn.
Okay.
All right.
okay, I make a motion to table it for to the next meeting.
I have a second.
Second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, Ed Johnson, aye.
Steve Misler, aye.
John Kane, aye.
Okay, motion carried. Table it to the next meeting. Okay, who do we have, Randy?
I see Rob Levesque on the call. Rob, you want to introduce yourself and your team?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate your time. Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. Also with us this evening is John Pagliaro. He's our client for the proposed condo community to be located at 42 Depot Street. I had the opportunity to communicate with Randy regarding potential water usage for this proposed project. He had mentioned that there was a moratorium based on a pretty heavy year. I guess some light rain, if much at all, and the potential that COVID had some effect with everybody being home and doing projects and using water, et cetera. So we understand that was the situation generally. We don't know the specifics, but we did hear that there was a moratorium. These guys, as well as a number of other clients in Southwick, have projects that are looking to move forward. This project itself would be for, let's just call it, generally speaking, approximately 85 to 90 condo units, 2-bedroom units. From a Title V standpoint, if we're calculating flow, say 220 to 330 gallons per day per unit. But we don't anticipate we'll have the project permitted, and we don't anticipate that we'll have any real construction probably before, on or about September of 2021, I guess it is. And then we would expect that, based on typical absorption rates that we see, I think we'd be very excited if there was 10 units a year that were absorbed. But typically, I think we've seen in the past, the other Depot Square project and a couple others where, they may be 5 to 6 units per season or per year. So we appreciate your time, and we wanted the opportunity to kind of understand the town's approach to the moratorium, in general timing, and then also see if there's an opportunity for these gentlemen, as they anticipate going through the permitting process in the winter, to work out an arrangement with the town if they approve the project, that so either subject to water or understand when water may or may not be available, kind of figure out how to approach it from a development standpoint.
Okay, Randy, can you fill them in, please?
Sure. So we talked about the moratorium. I think we're all of you on the call is aware of the moratorium in place. We did have a very large spike in water use this year in particular. We just sent out water bills, and a lot of sticker shock when people got those bills. Our usage this summer was up about 27% over last year. So two things that resulted in. One, we have a groundwater source in town. Plus, we also draw water from Springfield Water and Sewer as a supplementary source. During those summer months, we had pretty much all of our pumps running all day long, and we could still barely keep up with the demand. The second part of that is we have a water withdrawal permit from SDEP, which caps how much water we can take out of our own wells. Based on the numbers we've seen this year, we are going to hit or exceed that number this year, which is another issue. So until we can figure out exactly why water spiked this year, we certainly have some ideas. But until we can figure out, why that did happen, the commissioners voted to put the moratorium in place at the end of August. Certainly the items that you touched upon, Rob, are the ones that we probably suspect as well. It was a very dry summer and it still continues to be pretty dry. So we are in a drought condition. So people were irrigating more, filling their pools more often, et cetera. And then also due to COVID-19, people were home. I know some people are home permanently now, whether it's because their business has decided to close their door and are work from home remotely. I know some businesses have done that permanently, and others are in a phased plan to reopen their doors at some point. So my feeling is, until we get to see what happens, next year, I'm not comfortable allowing any connections at this time. I don't know if this is the new normal or if this will go back to where we thought it would be next year. Certainly trying to want to work with you. We're not trying to limit or stifle development in town. That's certainly not our objective here. We just want to make sure we're being cognizant of the current customers who are paying customers of the water department and making sure that we can supply their needs moving forward. A couple things that we are looking at doing. One thing in particular is we built a new water pump station on Jerry Drive this past year. That went up into service, I think, in January, February timeframe. We do have a pipeline from Springfield Water and Sewer to that new pump station that we feel there is an opportunity to upgrade that pipeline to reline it, which will increase the capacity that we can get out of that pump station. That was the intent, where we could be able to pump about 1,200 gallons a minute out of that pump station. Due to those limitations, we believe in that pipeline, we're only able to pump about 700 gallons a minute. So if we could increase that, that will help go a long way towards, I think, probably meeting what demands that you are looking to place on the system. Right now, that project is it was actually planned to be constructed last year with the pump station project, but when the bids came in, we had to scrap that part out of the scope to use available funding. So our goal is to try to secure more funding at this upcoming town meeting, which will be held in May, to secure funds for that project. If funds are available, they'd be available as of July 1st. We could go out to bid, at that time or maybe shortly before that, and work on that project. I can't make any guarantees when that project will be complete. My guess is May, summer, fall would be certainly the earliest, best case scenario from your standpoint. And then assuming that did the job, that we are able to expand the capacity of the pump station. I think at that point, and if we also saw that maybe demands dropped back down to what we consider the old normal, at that point, then maybe we could look at accepting a large customer like this.
And plus, we're still waiting for the water withdrawal permit to be updated, right?
Yeah, so
DEP.
another component is our water withdrawal permit. That's probably a several-year project in the making. Our permit actually expired in 2016, as did a lot of permits from other water systems across the state. And Mass DEP is just very behind in updating those permits. I reach out to Mass DEP officials about once a year, and I ask them, where are we on the schedule? I know we're behind, but where are we? I reached out to them a couple of weeks ago, and they said, well, maybe next year we're gonna look at your system. I've been hearing that for the past 3 years, so I'm not optimistic. I do reach out every year to them and ask the same question. So no guarantee on that. But even if we are able to get an increase in our withdrawal permit, there are probably still some limitations in our pump station. We have to look at upgrading. We have 2 wells at that site, well 1 and well 2. Probably we'd be looking at upgrading or replacing well 1, so we get a better, higher yield out of that pump station.
Is there, if I could, through the chair, is there a specific number or a specific percentage that you're trying to keep the new installs and new connections under? is it that scientific, or is it just a shutdown, or is it, if it comes down to a certain percentage, like if this, if you're looking at this, I don't know if you look at this quarterly or how you're looking at this, say the spring and summer come around, are you looking for a percentage drop, or have you just across the board said, oh, well, we had a spike and we're going to shut it down? Are you trying to achieve a certain percentage, or is there a certain acceptable percentage?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a certain number. I mean, certainly we want to live within our means. So if we're not comfortable, seeing the levels of use and something that we can't keep up with the demand, then we need to do something about it, and that's what we've done here. So I can tell you, Rob, we just had a table, looked at monthly flows. This past month of October, the flows were probably back to what we would expect prior to the summer. So that itself is a good thing, and I think it provides some credence that our theory of the summer months and the COVID had an impact on that water use. But again, we want to make sure that is the case.
Yeah. What was Kevin saying the other day, Randy? How many gallons a day we were doing during the summer? Over 1 million, right?
1.5 million.
1.5 million, Kevin?
Yeah. Currently, right now, we're right around 560,000 gallons a day.
And that's about normal?
Yes.
Pretty.
Yeah,
This
5.5, 600,000, 700 sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Weekends, obviously, it kicks up more during the day,
So during the summer, we had everything running full. Yeah. So we were
Full
maxed
tilt.
right out. Yep.
We couldn't
Okay.
put any more water into the system if we wanted to.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
So if you had to kind of predict how many months going into the summer, or, is it, how much data do you need under your belt to feel comfortable again that spike isn't going to happen, or that you're, is it, a quarter of data? Is it a season? Just to get some perspective on it.
Yeah, it's hard to say, until we actually see it. I can tell you that we did not see a spike this year until the month of May. So the months through April were actually pretty normal.
Right.
But month of May, the water really spiked up.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, Robert.
Mr. Chair, can I offer a question or opinion here on, my name is Mike Doherty. I'm the chair of the planning board.
Go ahead.
Thanks. So I just tuned in here, and because this was on, we had talked about this a little bit at some of the planning board meetings, and so I guess we were a bit surprised when this came down, being members of the planning board. I mean, I heard about it simply through back channels in town and people discussing it.
So didn't we.
But no, the moratorium.
Yeah. No, that was open meeting.
So I didn't hear about it for another week or so after it was done. And, haven't really learned about it other than by listening to the audio minutes of the hearing where it was done, or the meeting when it was done. And I guess I have some questions or some difficulties with the process. One is, I don't know why, the planning board and the Conservation Commission and other relevant boards were not brought into the loop on this to offer their opinions, or at least get a sense of what was coming down the pike and what was happening in town. Especially the planning board, who is usually the first stop for any developer in town, before they move on to, conservation and talking to some of the other boards. So, we were sort of out of the loop on that. I can tell you just from looking at, what little I've looked at, that the issue wasn't on an agenda. It was brought up at the last 15 minutes of a meeting, and there was a moratorium with no limitation and date issued, voted on and issued at that point. I don't, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be any clarification or specification about this moratorium going forward. And I'm not sure how developers in town or the planning board really deals with this, because there's, you basically prevented all development from going forward on a reasonable basis at this point in time. I also have to say, I happen to be a lawyer, and this is not what I do, but I would suggest you might want to talk to town council, because I'm pretty certain that what you did is not necessarily legal. I'm not sure you can have a moratorium that has no end date. You can certainly have one and has an end date, and then you talk about it again and renew it. But I'm not sure you can do it, especially in that process, without an end date. But putting that aside, I don't quite understand. I mean, it sounds like you're putting in a moratorium that is going to apply to developments, none of which would, I think I heard Rob when I first signed on say it would, shovels in the ground for it on September of 2021. I mean, nothing's going to get started before that. We have a couple other ones I know that they're in discussion phases. They've approached the town to look into it. I don't know where they are as far as talking to other boards, but at this point in time, you got something that's not going to have any impact for at least another year, if not more. I'm not sure how a moratorium put into effect now because of a spike when everybody was at home during a pandemic is really tailored to, to what you're trying to deal with. I mean, I get it. You have to deal with something and you have to at least have the discussion, but I'm not sure that saying we're not going to allow developments to come to us in a year and ask to connect to the water system is really something that resolves the situation at this point in time. I mean, I think I heard someone say that the usage now is at normal levels. So I guess I just
so
wanted
Mike,
to offer
let me just, Chad, this is not a discussion that we had planned on having tonight.
Right.
The agenda item is to talk with 42 Depot Street, which I don't think you're here to represent.
Right.
So your discussion, we could certainly have a discussion, but I don't think right now is the time to have that.
Right.
Well, I don't. So I'm not allowed to
we-
come to a town meeting and offer my comments on the moratorium that applies to that particular property.
Okay, well, can I make a comment here?
Sure,
Based
Darren.
on the moratorium, the problem that we're seeing, as Randy said, is we cannot supply during the summer months any more water. That's what we're seeing at this rate. There is, who do we put the water restriction on at that point when the pump stations go down and we can't supply water? The new developments that are, paying their bills, or the people who have been here paying their bills. And I think the problem that we're going to have is we need to see, can we get the upgraded capacity first? Like you said, in May timeframe, do we need the upgraded capacity? But for right now, there's many unknowns. So to come down and put an end date on the moratorium, I think is wrong. We could do other different things to it. We didn't interrupt. And the problem is we cannot supply enough water right now. That is what it is. We can't do it. So if we're maxed out, how can we add more consumption? It just doesn't work at this point.
Right.
I'm not saying that you needed a date on it to, that.
Well,
I'm
you
not
did.
saying that there was a logical date that needed to be put on it. I'm saying I think you need one to be legal, and I'm offering that simply as advice. Depending on how far this goes forward, because I don't. The issues come up with us, and I think that's when we had to do the marijuana bylaws and the moratorium on that. The issue has come up, and I'm just pointing it out to the board that I think that's, or to the commission that I think is an issue because we had to deal with it. So
Kind of hard to put a date on it, Mike, when we don't know until we get the issues and see what's going on with the spike. We just can't say, okay, June of next year, we're going to open it up again. We don't know that, Mike. That's why we're trying to monitor this.
I get that you're trying to monitor it, and I just don't know. I'm not certain, and we'll talk solely about this particular project if you want. I'm not certain how this project, which is not going to take place until a year from now, has to have this uncertainty about this moratorium that is, who knows what requirements are needed to have it off. I mean, And it's
Well,
not going to be on an
okay.
agenda.
Quite
It's not
frankly,
gonna be
Mike,
dealt-
that's the reason why we invited the developer to the meeting tonight, or why they asked to come to the meeting.
Right.
So we could try to talk about a common ground, so it could work for all parties.
and-
But you, that, so
Okay.
I guess our appointment is for 42 Depot Street.
Right.
I'm gonna ask Rob, you're on the agenda. I mean, how do you want to continue this conversation?
Thank you, guys. So, hi, Mike, how are you? I see Mike quite a bit at the planning board. So let me be careful. I think this is obviously a delicate issue. I appreciate where the commission is coming from. I appreciate where the town is in their position. We're not looking, at least these guys, I mean, I represent right now, currently, I represent probably 4 or 5 different developers that are looking at projects that need water. This is probably the busiest market, housing market, development market that there's been in at least 15 years or so. And, you have a lot of people that are trying to capture that. So it's obviously a pretty inopportune time. But that said, these guys, and specific to this project, are reasonable guys. They're pursuing this project. They've worked with I don't know if you know Bill Malone, but Bill Malone's the owner of the property. He's been a taxpayer in town for years and hardworking landscaper. So, we're trying to work with the town, work with the commission. We appreciate you letting us on tonight. We would love some expectations so these guys could plan. I think we have some flexibility in that, and some flexibility with Mr. Malone. But it would help to have a little bit, if there is the opportunity for a little bit more thought from the commission as they see, maybe it's maybe we go month by month here. I don't know the approach, but as you get more data in and start to feel you understand things a little bit better about what happened. Obviously going into the spring and summer, I wouldn't expect that these guys are going to need to necessarily break ground right away. We would like to Mr. Doherty's point, or Attorney Doherty's point, we'd like to go through the process with the planning board. Most likely, these guys have to make that decision, but there's no reason that the planning board couldn't approve the project with the understanding that we might not have water right when we're approved. Might have to wait a little bit. Most planning board decisions and conservation commission decisions are good for 2 to 3 years, depending on what permit we're talking about. But so if they got approved in the spring and had to wait a little bit, or if there was time to figure things out, I don't think that that's the end of the world. And we're trying not to make this more of a problem for the commission. We're absolutely is not our approach. I do feel passionate like Mike does about this, because obviously, we have people that have been paying taxes that want to move forward with their development and whatnot. But that said, I think tonight, all we wanted to do is at least open up the dialogue, knowing that it might not be resolved, and maybe just plant the seed if there is a possibility to think about where you're going. And then I guess a question for Randy, is there really any objection to us moving forward with the project, say with the planning board? Because we have 2 or 3 that are going to be coming in anyway. And, obviously we won't, we might be held up by water, depending on how it all shakes out, but at least we'll work through the permitting process. These guys will have the gun loaded, and then when the water's available, they can fire away. Does that seem reasonable? I mean, we're trying to work, we understand the position you're in. We get it. We don't want anybody to have water problems. We know that water and fire are the biggest things we deal with. So we get it. But we would like to continue the dialogue and have some, if we can get some expectation going into the winter at some point, or even the spring, as to where you think you're going to end up. That would be helpful, obviously, for planning purposes.
I'd like to chime in here for a second on a couple points. First, I'd like to thank Mike for his time and his insight. It may very well be that this moratorium may be null and void because of the way we did it. So I'd like to see if we can talk to town council, and then if it is null and void, then we can revisit it at another meeting, put it on the agenda, and talk it over. And the second thing is, Rob, I'd like to ask if you would consider a private well for irrigation. I mean, if your project, because I think
Absolutely.
that's where we have a lot of issues now are with residential irrigation. We're getting a lot of heavy use through irrigation, and I think we need to also come up with some kind of education program for the people who are overwatering, especially during a drought.
Right.
So I think there's three things that we can add to our new business, which is that. And I don't see any reason, personally, I can't speak for the entire commission, but I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to continue your project. Seeing as, it does seem like it's an anomaly, this kind of use, but we really need to be sure. And if our moratorium is null and void because of the way we proceeded with it by town council, then, I'm willing to revisit it and put a date on it and do whatever we have to do to protect the water supply and proceed. But, if we can, I think maybe in future talks, we can consider maybe residential only at your facility, and you can figure out irrigation at a later date.
Absolutely. And we could look at that on all of our projects going forward, if that helps, for sure. And to reiterate what I said, we want to work with the commission on this. We know this is a big concern. We don't want to get a bigger concern. And Randy's been great in communicating this early on, so that he didn't want us to be blindsided. So we're really happy that, it's something that could be considered. I guess we could, we could make ourselves available at the appropriate time. If it's the next meeting or when you feel it's appropriate, we certainly would do that. We just want to work with the town. These guys do the project, but we do have some flexibility. It doesn't to be figured out tomorrow, but we would like to work to figuring it out. That's all.
Yeah.
Randy,
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair.
can you check with town council as far as the moratorium?
Yes, I can do that. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we're willing to work with Robert, and we don't want to let him hang out to dry. We'll work with him.
That's great. Yeah. And we don't feel like we're being hung out to dry. You guys have been great. And Randy's been great. We know you got an issue. I think I can speak for John and Clyde that they want to work with the town. And hopefully get to the planning board soon.
We'll be in touch. Randy will keep you in the loop of what's going on, what we find out.
That's great, guys. Thank you for
Robert?
your time tonight.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
And folks, I
Take care,
just
guys.
want to say, I am, this has bugged me a little bit, but less you guys and more some other commissions recently where things have been, there's sort of a lack of communication and it sort of pops into the planning board's lap and it sort of increases the work of Alan or, other folks on the planning board. And, it's not necessarily entirely you guys, though this has come up. And so it's, when you're third on the list, it probably fires me up more than I need it to be. But, I just, because we do have a role in it, I just hope going forward, there could be, more communication between boards and commissions to try to work through things that may fall into the laps of others. We certainly do our best and probably fail at times to do that, but, we are very cognizant of the input of other boards in the things that come in front of us. And, I just wanted to at least raise that because like I said, we were sort of blindsided by that. And then people come in and ask about what's going on and we don't really have an answer for them.
Okay, Mike. Yep. We will keep in touch with you.
I'll just say one thing, there's probably a perception out there that, water is plentiful and abundant, and that's not the case. We have limitations on our end. So certainly, Rob, I know you represent a lot of clients, potential clients in this area. Keep that in mind. Water is not plentiful. So we can only pump so much. So that's all I want to say.
We're happy to look at that going forward. And thank you guys for your time. We really appreciate it. And we'll be available through Randy or however you want.
Keep in contact with Randy. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Randy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Is there anything else to come before the board?
Just those three points that we were just discussing, to check with town
Town
council
Yep,
to make sure that, you know, the moratorium, and if we have to revisit it and look at it and post it in an agenda or whatever we have to do. You know, I like to do things right as well, and if it wasn't done right, I'd like to do it again. And some kind of, I don't know if we can come up with some kind of education pamphlet or whatever to educate people who have automatic irrigation systems. Because if you're not thinking about it, you're not thinking about it,
right,
you know, until they get the bill, and then they get the shock.
right.
So something with that, and, you know, anybody who's a large user should really consider getting a well for their irrigation. I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
Is really stressing our water supply. And eventually, if it keeps going, nobody's going to have irrigation. It's going to be outlawed.
Right.
You know, that's just the way it's going to have to. The DEP are the people that make the rules. So
There's only so much water.
yeah.
Randy, I thought that was on the agenda though.
It was, I have to go back to the agenda and see how it was worded.
Okay.
I think it was talked about water use, or, you know, large water use or something along those
Yeah.
lines. I
Right.
forget what exactly the agenda said.
If I'm correct, I think Doug was on that meeting, in that Zoom meeting, wasn't he?
Doug
Yeah.
was on the call, yeah.
Yes, he was. You know, he knows about it. So, all right, we'll talk to town council and see what they say and
Yeah.
see what's going on with that. And if it's not legal, well, then we're gonna have to revisit it and whatever and do it the right
Sure.
way.
I mean,
Yeah.
even without the moratorium, you still have the right to accept or reject an application. So even if there's no moratorium, you can still say no, or you can say
Oh,
yes.
absolutely right. Yeah.
You can say yes, but you have conditions. So
Right. Yeah. And we got the charts to prove it, what we went through this year. So.
Yeah.
Right.
so
I'd just like to see if we can, you know, maybe persuade developers to try to use a separate source for irrigation.
for irrigation. Yeah.
I
So
think that would
actually-
be
yeah, go ahead,
that
Dave.
would be a good policy going forward with until we hear from the state and see what our withdrawal permit will be.
Right.
So interesting. I received a call from the property manager for Rails End. This is the new development that's actually just adjacent to 42 Depot Street.
Right.
They called me 2 days ago, and they got their water bill, and they said they want to look into drilling wells for their irrigation use.
Okay.
So he was asking me, you know, how to go about that, and who we could speak to. So I gave him some advice on that.
Well, like Dave said, maybe we can come up with a pamphlet or something, or put it on the town website about people with irrigation systems that they'd be better off putting in a well or whatever. Or
Sure.
okay. Anything else to come before the board?
Dave, I'm sorry, I really wrote two things down. You wanted to have
Yeah. What
three
was the
things.
third thing? Yeah.
Yeah, the moratorium, check the legal review on that, the education on
And-
top users, and what was the third item?
And I think it was the irrigation systems. Maybe we could even extend a moratorium to irrigation use, you know.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Or
Okay.
restrict development to domestic water and
Only.
not
I think
irrigation.
with new development and that kind of thing, over a certain square footage of, you know, maintained lawn, require them to have a drilled well and not use for irrigation.
Yeah, we can work something up. Yep.
And it works out better for them too as well, because they're paying a lot of money for water to spray on the grass. you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, they
no
are.
harm, it's better for them.
Just keep in mind that these wells, tread lightly when you're recommending that, because they're not regulated by the DEP. If they're in our zone, well zone or something, you know, they could create possible contamination. Private
Okay.
wells are a gray area. You gotta be careful.
Okay.
They're dangerous. They
Yeah.
can be dangerous if not. We monitor our wells. A homeowner doesn't. They don't have the proper,
Okay.
it needs to be researched pretty deeply before recommended, in my opinion.
Because if I'm correct, I don't think Westfield allows wells for that.
No,
That's what I thought.
And there,
Westfield doesn't allow that.
it's a serious, it's gonna be an up and coming thing, where they're gonna start clamping down on them and regulating them, because groundwater gets contaminated from private wells quite often.
Okay,
People just are not trained, they don't have the proper backflow prevention devices or whatnot, and it can contaminate the groundwater.
okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to look deep into it. Okay, yep,
Yeah,
Yeah.
before recommending that people do it. In my opinion, that's how it should be addressed.
okay, yep, no, no, you know more than I do when it comes to that. But I think Westfield, they don't allow wells for irrigation, I don't think. I'm pretty sure they don't. So
I
we'll
don't know, John could call his uncle and ask him, I
I
don't
was just
know.
talking to him earlier and I didn't bring that up, but I can ask him to
Yeah,
see
I
what.
thought I heard that from somebody on the water department there, that they don't allow wells for irrigation, but I could be wrong. But
I know they've been doing a lot of well conversions, to city water for the reason Kevin was talking about.
yeah, that's what I'm
It
saying.
can be dangerous.
Oh,
Another
we
thing
will.
Westfield doesn't allow is booster pumps and stuff, which with this new development, with the elevation that it's at and everything, something to be considered as well. In-house booster pumps are not allowed in Westfield either. And it would be required in that development on Depot. Rails End was supposed to have a booster station on there to boost the pressure. With the elevation there, you're not gonna have any water pressure at the top. People are gonna be forced to use those.
Right,
It's not advised either.
okay, okay,
It's a
Yeah, we-
suggestion for future,
okay. Very good. Thanks for your input, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for joining us, Kevin, today.
Yeah, we enjoy it. Thanks for all your hard work and
well, I
your.
finally figured out how to log on to this thing with the help of Christie.
Oh, okay, good. No,
We're
you're
gonna-
doing good.
We're gonna change it next month.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, well, hopefully you don't have to wear a bulletproof vest when you go to some of these houses with these irate customers.
No worries.
No, thanks for all your good work, and tell your guys too. You do a good job.
Certainly.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Anything else to come before the board? I have a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Ed Johnson, aye.
Dave Meswar, aye.
John Kane, aye.
Okay, motion is passed and the meeting is closed.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.